GM friends, and thanks for tuning in to DeFi-Logic's TA Tuesday live on our Discord server at 10 a.m. Mountain Time every week. This week has been done for crypto and a pump for legacy markets. Today, we will review charts for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and for legacy markets, S&P500, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, and gold. With that, over to GForce.
Okay, thanks, Pepe. I'm going to go over Bitcoin first. So Bitcoin has had a sell-off. If you guys would know, anybody that follows Bitcoin knows that on the 4th of July, it sold off quite a bit. And we were looking at this for a while, all the way back here on June 3rd, where it hit this midpoint, climbed back up, formed an M right here, and then it slid. And since that midpoint, it went closed past that on June 11th. And then it's slid ever since then. It just walked down the lower 2x band, and it just had a sideways action for a while. And then on the 3rd and the 4th, it just slid down. And the following day on the 5th, it did a huge wick down to the 3x band right there. And that one, it reclaimed it, which was good. We went all the way down to, what was the low? 53,499, just a tick below 53,500. And then it's climbed back up. So you'll see the lines I've had is that basically my main line was right here at 65,500. It broke that. I had another line at 61,902, which was off of this low back here on March 19th. And then the recent low, which was on May 1st, right here was the 58,265. And when it broke that, then all heck broke loose, and then we whipped back up. So I was looking at this day here, which was July 6th, would it break that 58,265? It closed right at it, and then it opened at it again and then dropped down to the 2x band. So right here is, we're climbing back up. It's going to test that 58,265 again. So the high today has been 58,122. It should climb back up and try and test that, whether it tests it today or tomorrow, but that'll be a test. And if it climbs, we'll get to that standard deviation line, which is moving lower. That's the black line right here. So right now we need to see Bitcoin break and close above that 58,265. Okay, moving on to ETH. I've been following ETH a little bit more lately, and basically because the ETF, the news in the Discord is that the ETF should be approved this week or next week. Hopefully, it's because it's just declined significantly. If the ETF was approved a few days ago, we probably wouldn't have this huge decline right here. So it did the same as Bitcoin. It just dropped after going in this channel. So you'll see we had a channel which was a support line at 3469. And that support line turned into resistance line. So since June 24th, it's floated in this channel and resisted at 3469 with a bottom of 3352. Okay, once we broke that, which was on July 3rd, it just tanked. July 4th, and then everybody knows on July 5th. This July 5th, actually, if you're in US time, is basically part of July 4th, just because of the time issue. And we've climbed back up a little bit the last 2 days. So this is bouncing off of the lower band right here, that band at 2939. So we'll see if it comes back up. We expect a pop with the ETF. How much of a pop? I don't think so. I think it will pop, but not much of one. And I would go to say that basically it might get back up. If it gets back up to 3,500, I don't know. I don't think it will with the pop on the ETF, but it might. I think a lot of people are looking at 3,500 level, and that level is way up here. And I think that would be too much of a jump. So a pop, yes, I think that's a stretch. Moving on to Sol. Sol basically has some good movement. It's dropped down like everything else since June 6th. It's just, as you can see, it stepped down this 2x band. These bands are important. Even with crypto, these Bollinger Bands still work because it gives basically a point in the sand, basically. It shows you how the algorithms and the quant tradings work. And they all work off of the Bollinger Bands as one of the main key indicators that they use. So we hit a low point here on June 24th. It run past up the standard deviation line and closed above it on the 27th of June, and then it's dropped back down, and it hit the 2x band up here, which was good. And then it's fall back, which it should, to the standard deviation line. It did that one day because of July 3rd, and then July 4th, it went back down. Now, it didn't wick as bad as Bitcoin and ETH. This wick is a little bit lower, but it never reached the 3x band. It just went in between the 2x band, which is right here, and the 3x right there. And then now it's trying to find some footing, and it's going sideways. So I think it's still going to hover going forward around the standard deviation line, which is at 138.87, and it's just going to keep going sideways with that action. So that's it for crypto. I'll move on to the legacy markets now. We'll start out with the S&P 500. That is just climbed. Again, we've had way back here in the first part of June, it's just gone up all-time high each day, a new all-time high, another all-time high, and it hit that 5,500 level, psychological level, of course, and then bounced back down. And then once it tested it again and closed above it, we've just been, boom, 4 days in a row. Now you can see the momentum is getting a little bit tired, because we're talking about yesterday wasn't even much of a movement, and today's not much of a movement either. So it's starting to get tired. Even though it's going higher, the momentum's starting to wane, because you look at these solid green solid candles here, and then now we got just little crosses or plus signs. So today it's up only 11 points, and then you look on the day before, which was yesterday, it was up only 5.66 points, and it's a far cry from these 30-point moves. Volatility is getting smaller and smaller in these markets, and so you see these smaller daily moves. Now the Dow Jones 30, okay, we saw the 40,000 mark way back here on May 17th, and we've dropped all the way down to the lower 2x line here on May 21st, and then it's recovered back up, broke that standard deviation line, hit the 2x band here on June 24th, come off of it, and it's slowly moving back up. So you can see when it hits this 2x band, that is pretty much an extension, and it should fall back, and which it does, especially like we saw on Bitcoin. When it hit the lower 3x band, it bounced way back off of it. It rejected being down in that range and moved back up. So I can see right now that Dow Jones 30 is just going more straight, more sideways. And you can see that the lines right here, the upper band is still going higher, but the lower bands right here, the 2x and the 3x, are going more sideways. So I'm looking at more sideways direction with that. Moving on to the dollar index, which is supposedly the inverse correlation to crypto, but it also faded with crypto. Here on July 3rd, July 4th, July 5th, it's faded. Basically I'll move this line over, this 105.11 is basically hitting it right now, and it should either go sideways with it, like the standard deviation line, or it'll hopefully pop back up. Again, the dollar index is US dollar strength, and right now we've had some issues with auctions being weak demand for US bonds. We also have BRICS, so there's a few issues coming around, so the dollar probably is going to go sideways for a while on that. And we're going to go to US 10-year, and we'll look at this. This has been bouncing all over the place. For the 10-year to be moving this much is pretty significant. So we've had this line here, the 4.34. I'll extend this one out, and that was back at this low back here in May 16th. So it's moved up since then, moved back down to the 2x band, moved above the standard deviation line right here on June 10th, went back down to the lower 2x band, and it's moved sideways. I was surprised that it popped. It almost hit the 4.5% basis points right here on July 1st, but it whiffed back down. And that's a key psychological level for everything. That's where credit card interest rates get involved, mortgage interest rates get involved. Again, elections are coming up, so it just moved down since then. They don't want huge interest rates and mortgage rates going up and credit cards going up right before the election. So that pretty much explains the fade here. And then going straight now to the standard deviation line, which right now is floating around 4.3%. So you have to realize that a lot of the markets, there's a lot of political play with this type of an election coming up, which is very important and also very diverse. Both parties are pretty much polarized. There's the far left and there's the far right, and there's nobody in the middle right now. We're going to move on to gold. Gold has basically, I put this in the 8 charts. We have a 2400 level and a 2300 level. Nice round numbers, right? You can see that it has opened at 2427. So it had that high right there, and it's come down since then. And so right at this point, back here on June 20th, I started to see this triangle form. So just look at this diagonal line going down. That forms a triangle. And the baseline on the triangle is 2300. So this triangle was forming. And I posted that in the TA charts back here on June 21st or on the 24th. It was back in this point where I talked about it. And because there was such a gap between the diagonal line coming down and the baseline, the 2300, I thought that it would take more time before it would pop. Now, it popped right on July 3rd. So it's popped way up, trying to get to that 2400 level, but it hasn't gotten there yet. So I think it will get back up to 2400. It's going to take some time to do that. But the key is that the triangle worked, and what triangles do, they do price compression. So you look at this line, is that all these prices start to stay in this triangle and they get smaller. The daily price action gets smaller. Even when it popped up, it never went above that diagonal line. And then it's gone back down, hit 2300 as a baseline, and then it's popped up since then. And I'll show you that silver did the same thing. We'll just throw in silver. I had the same lines with silver on a diagonal line, and this baseline, which was $28.90, has been there for a long time. And I saw this triangle forming, and about the same time as gold, I always look at gold and then look at silver, and it did the exact same thing. If you draw this triangle line down a little bit more, it never got to the double top we had back here in the end of May, but it's receded a little bit since then, but it's still going to climb that upper 2x line. Okay, so I'll finish with silver, and back to you, Pepe.
Thanks, John. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button for more crypto trading and overall market content. But that's it for this week. If you'd like to see GForce's daily charts, join our discussions, and get some alpha, join our Discord today. We'll see you next week at the same time in the server or on YouTube. Thanks for joining. GM friends.
Join us next week in Discord for TA Tuesday at DeFi-Logic.com.